Welcome back to the GSTL. I am Wolf. With me today is Artosis, in fact.
Oh, yeah.
It is going to be TSL.Millenium versus FXOpen today. A great lineup of matches. We had FXOpen as our, of course, seeded team from last season. They made it all the way to the round of 4 where they were defeated, and TSL had to earn their way here. And I don't know if TSL did or if it was Symbol Man.
Well, you know what? You can't have just one great player on the team. They have a lot of people supporting him, a lot of good Zergs to play with. Of course, I'm sure he practices with Pole all the time. And, of course, probably practice with Cyrano.
Well, you know, I'm sure he does. He's got a Nori as well, don't forget.
No, I know. It's like an inside joke.
But, the thing is,
the
thing is, like, ZVZ is so important in the Team League right now. And with that many Zergs on your team...
Yeah, they're pretty Zerg-based.
Yeah, I mean, like, how bad can your ZVZ be if you have that many good Zerg practice partners to work with? You're a Zerg yourself. You know, you've got... every Zerg that you could ever want. You've got like 3 different styles of Zerg to work with at any moment in time when you want to practice. So the ZVZ from these players has been decently, it's been decently good. I don't know if that's like actually a term that we should use in English, but
yeah, probably not. But that's fine, Wolf. And, you know, a team that's, like, very Zerg-based, like TSL, it produces Zerg killers and people kill Zergs, which make the Zergs even better at those matchups.
That's very true.
It's pretty awesome, man. They're going to be ready for it.
They absolutely will. Well, look at the race distribution here for these teams. And see, interestingly enough, only 3 Zergs showing on the TSL roster today. That's actually making up the lowest of their race distribution.
Yeah, that's weird, actually. I'm trying to think of 5 Protoss. I can only think of a Nori and Cyrano.
Yeah, that can't actually be
But Cyrano changed his ID, didn't he?
Yeah, he changed his ID to... I can't remember.
That's okay.
It's not important because Cyrano is what he's known as. But I think those are incorrect race distributions. Either way, you can see the most contributing player by far is Symbol, the highest GSTL win rate for his team at 91.7. That's higher than Dongregu currently.
Wow.
Of course, he hasn't played as many games as Dongregu, but still.
Yeah. No, that's a wild stat, man. They're the best 2 Zergs in the world, so not surprised to see those 2 up at the top of that win percentage.
Of course, yeah. Here's some more information about the win rate ranking, quite literally, for these teams. Basically, you can see which players doing the best. And
oh my God. Do you see that? 9-0, and then 2 people at 9-2? Are you kidding me, Wolf?
That's actually crazy. Unfortunately for Life, his win rate's not enough to save his team. Yeah. You can see Puzzle. He did really well yesterday. Turns out Destructible Rocks were too much for him, but...
I didn't get to see it yet.
Well...
I was preparing for your birthday party.
Well, it was a fun party.
Actually, no, I was at a baseball game. But it was a fun party.
It was, I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, it's almost like I'm going to have 2 birthdays, but actually, no, it's over in the United States now, but it's like if you live in Korea, you have like kind of 2 birthdays because you have your friends in Korea who wish you happy birthday, but then the next day, when it's actually your birthday on the other side of the world, you get birthday wishes as well. So it's really, I guess that's right. It's like a 2-birthday sort of thing.
That's pretty wonderful, isn't it?
It's really nice. Yeah. And my father and I actually share birthdays, but it's not really the same day anymore because for him it's only one day in another place. So. Obviously, we have this.
Well, that's nice then, actually.
Yeah,
you each get your own day.
We each get our own day. Yeah. It's very true. We have this picture event going on. Post a fun picture of yourself watching the Hot 6 GSTL and submit it to GOMTV. There's a page you can go to in the forums. Submit that. And if you do so, you might actually get your page put up on stream. We'll talk about it.
Oh, wow. I want to see some of those.
I want to see those, too.
I'd love to talk about some of those
We saw
pictures.
some really cool ones from the Pepsi. There was like a Pepsi picture event of some kind. I remember seeing some of those photos. Pretty cool. So submit your photos. Do that. Go on Twitter. Follow GOMTV. Show your support. Go on Facebook. Go to Global GOMTV. Like that page. Follow Artosis on Twitter. Follow myself at ProxyWolf. Do all of these things. Get on Wikipedia and find out your favorite player's Twitter and follow him too. You probably didn't even know he had a Twitter. You were like, I was always wondering what his ID was because they have some weird IDs.
Yeah, they do. Not many people get their actual ideas, their Twitter.
Yeah.
I saw Twitter a long time ago, man. Grabbed Artosis right up. We'll never change that.
Yeah, no, never let anyone have that, man. No. The second you change it,
someone will grab that, snap it right up.
I actually... when I was changing my ID from FXO Wolf, when I left FXO, you were with me, actually. You were actually the person who told me to change it to Proxy Wolf. It was your idea.
That was my idea,
That's because you're a
guys.
genius.
That's because I'm a genius, guys. Thanks, Wolf.
But it took me so long to actually find an ID I could use with Wolf in it. No matter what, I tried. Even if
they
it was
were all
something
taken.
ridiculous.
I was sitting there.
I tried Wolf, 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 or something like that, and it was taken. I was like, well, what do I do?
Wolf, Wolf, Wolf 69. It's like, that's taken too. What the hell?
I know, man. I just didn't know what to do. Well, check out TSL.
Look at those handsome nerds. Of course, sponsored by thehandsomernerd.com.
Oh, I see what
you can go
there.
visit that site and support them by getting some shirts.
Yeah, indeed you can. Well, their roster looking very complete today. Obviously, like we said, a very Zerg-dominated team, but also we have Holt in there. We've got Serrano. We've got Inori. TSL Center.
I want to see what other Protosses are on this lineup. I think that must have been wrong. There were 5 tosses on
I don't
TSL.
think that's actually
They've
accurate.
really struggled getting strong toss players, you know?
And Serrano, actually, right after he joined the team, got a hand injury. Wasn't able to play for several weeks. And I heard he's still in recovery, so...
Yeah, no, I don't think we'll see him today. I think Inori's the only Protoss that we'll be seeing today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be mostly Zergs, Polt, and Inori, I would say.
Well, here is the full breakdown of the team TSL. Partnering with Millennium right now. No Millennium players currently in the house. And here is Polt, Punisher, and Center are 3 Terrans. Punisher, we haven't seen him yet.
No, I'm trying to think of who he is.
And here are some of our Zergs, Ragnarok, Hyun, and Symbol. That's just a few because we also have Revival, Shine, and it looks like Value is the new ID of Serrano, and of course Inori we mentioned before. Former FXO player.
Yeah, and in fact, Inori did really well at this last MLG. Got very deep, and in fact, a TSL guy had to knock him out. I believe him, Symbol, and Polt all got like top 16-ish or so, and then started knocking each other out. Very strong team, TSL. In fact, I think they have one of the absolute best coaches, if not the best coach, in StarCraft 2 right now.
I think so, man.
And even when they didn't have anyone big on their roster, they still did very well in Team League.
They beat so many people. It was insane.
Yeah, he knows how to use these guys, man. He knows how to snipe them, what maps to put them out on, who to put them out against. And that's such a big part of this. It's not just your name power, because look at IM, man. They lost right straight out with the biggest names in the whole game.
Absolutely so. Well, our opponents for TSL are these guys, FXOpen, a team I was once a part of. Very large roster of players. I would say that minus a few, like Gumiho and Lenok, for example, this team feels like the biggest B-team roster that you could ever see.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. They've had a hard time. You know, Oz is gone now. Who do they really have sitting around? Gumiho's still looking really good.
Yes.
Lenok, of course, still looking really good, but both those guys fell out last place in their groups in Code S, so they're both bottom of Code A now. And also they have Lucky. He's really good, but
everyone else they have, it's either really good or he's kind of in an off time. For example, ASD. Sometimes he looked great, and then sometimes he looked a little bit weak. You could say the same of Lucky.
They have some other up-and-coming players, though. For instance, Tree. Tree's been doing very well.
And, you know, you could arguably say even the same of Choya. I mean, he was once a top-notch player, didn't have the time to keep practicing as much as his teammates.
Yeah.
Well,
here's the coaching now. So.
Yeah, of course. Here's the full breakdown of our players. Lucky, Lenok, and Sirius making up the Zergs. Sirius, a very underrated player, I have to say.
Yeah, he is. People don't think of him. Then we have Whale Supreme as 2 more Zergs, and then Tear and Choya, or Tier. I don't know what to call him.
It's Tier. Don't worry.
Okay.
And Gumiho, the best, and ASD making up the Terrans there at the end. The best is a scary player to have. He does not have very many results recently. You know, when you see him, you usually think all in. But, you know, that alone, even if you know he's going to all-in you, he might just still succeed. That's how good he is at all-inning.
Yeah, but he also does play macro from time to time. He's gotten a lot better than back when he was, you know, we were making jokes at his expense way back, you know, when he was like just flying Banshees into turrets and stuff like that. He's gotten a lot better. He's actually a solid Terran at this point. And he gets through those Code B qualifiers more than most people. He's been through those at least 3 times, I think.
Yes. And also, I want to mention that Choya is no longer, he's got a new haircut. And I like it a lot better. It looks a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
It's no longer kind of like a malformed afro or something. It looks good. Our starting player for TS looks like it's going to be Hyun.
Yeah. such a strong Zerg player. This guy was much more accomplished in StarCraft 1 than a lot of other players that we actually have that people are like, wow, they are so good. For instance, Puma, MC, this guy was way better in StarCraft 1. Maybe not as good as, let's say, MVP, but still one of the top tier guys coming over. He came over a bit later, which is why we haven't seen him as much, but he's definitely someone you're going to see in the future.
Yeah, and you know, TSL's coach, Coach Lee, has told me time and time again he feels like this guy may be the player on the team who has the most potential. Yeah, I mean, he just keeps telling me, just wait, just wait. Every time I talk to him about the, you know, how he feels about how Hyun is performing, how he's learning, he says, oh, he's learning so quickly. I mean, he's learning faster than anyone else. He and Ragnarok, he said so much good things about them.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how he plays today. You know, the games I have seen from him so far, you can see it in his play. You know, you're like, oh, you're going to come up and strong. Sometimes you watch people play that are like, look like they're kind of coming up, but they kind of hit a wall because it's not as intuitive.
Yeah.
Anyways, Leenock, unfortunately, he did drop out of Code S into the bottom of Code A.
Unfortunate
recently.
games for him. I feel the nerves maybe playing a little bit of a factor. His play just seemed a little bit unrefined in some ways, some of his pathing mistakes, but in general, a top-notch player. He's got average wins of 1.0 here. That's pretty impressive to have for Team League. Yeah. And, you know, putting him out as a starting player is an interesting choice. It's kind of like putting out, it's like eating your dessert before you eat your real meal, but sometimes that can be better.
Sure. I guess it could be at certain points in time.
Yeah, like in elementary school.
Yeah, and you know what? Okay, you got me, Wolf, because I'm sitting here thinking, I'm not really so sure. I don't really eat dessert. I'd rather have my main meal.
Me too,
right. But when I was in elementary school, I was all about dessert.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be, I mean, this match becomes so much more important because if Leenock is the starting player, if he loses early, FXOpen is already kind of going an uphill battle.
Yes, certainly. And I think this is going to be an uphill battle for them anyways. FXO looked great last season. So did TSL, but TSL is really shining right now, man. Yeah,
and FXO is looking a little bit weaker, especially after losing Oz. That's the most specific loss they've had. I think that's going to affect them here.
Yeah. Well, Muspelheim,
my favorite map next to Daybreak.
Really? Really?
Yeah. I'll talk about it a little bit once we get in.
I have to admit. But yeah, we can go over that.
We'll go into it. But we are going to have yet another ZVZ here at the GSTL, guys. The biggest matchup by far, it seems, this season. We'll see which one of these teams will take an early lead. Hyun versus Leenock. I am Wolf. With me is Artosis. Let's get into Muspelheim. Up here at the top right, former Brood War player, a very well-known one, in fact. His ID is TSL. One of the so-named elephants. Doesn't look like one, though.
No, not so much.
At the bottom right, some might argue he's the star player of FXOpen. Their starting player's ID is FXOpen. I would say, in fact, most people would argue he's the star player today.
Yeah, I have to say so. You know, he's the guy that's made a GSL Finals. He's won an MLG. He's a very accomplished Zerg, but... And you know what? He actually played well in Code S the other day. He really did. You know, he has his own style, and some people might look at that and be like, this isn't similar DRG or NST. This isn't very good. But no, it's a very difficult style to play. Yeah. One that very few Zergs even try. And he did a good job with it. He just wasn't the best in that group. That's all that came down to it.
You're right. I mean, he had a few critical mistakes in his play that led to his demise. And very few Zerg players actually advanced into the round of 16. I believe
only 4,
right? Yeah,
that's right. And they're literally like the best of the best. Symbol, NST, DRG, and then Violet, who's been killing outside of Korea.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see what sort of potential Violet's going to have here in Korea.
Me too.
You know, the tough thing for him, too, is that this isn't even really his main place of living anymore. So if he starts doing really well...
Where is his main place?
Texas.
He's everywhere, man. Yeah, I've heard that, but...
You know, it's funny because if he starts doing really well out here, he can't go home until he loses. So I guess it's a win-win for him no matter what.
I don't think he'll mind, man. If that's your reason for not going home because you're killing the GSL, that's a good reason not to go anywhere.
Well, the reason I like this map so much is because the way the ramps are really force engagements to be, they're going to be the advantage, or I'm struggling to get this one out, but the advantage will go to the player who has the better concave, and that's going to be the player who has better map awareness. He's going to be able to know how to position his units. We saw this, my favorite game on this map was Lucira against Zergwa at inferior upgrades to Lucira. I can't even remember, but it was, I think it may have even been Symbol.
I think it was Symbol.
But you know, he had less upgrades, but he controlled every engagement his way because he was so map aware. He was so aware of his opponent's movements. And in a matchup like ZVZ, where the concave is so important, I mean, it's the most critical part. It's the only thing you can do oftentimes in ZVZ when you both have a certain number of roaches. The roach numbers are close, the upgrades are even. You know, infestors here, infestors there, but the concave is something you can absolutely control, and if you have good map awareness, you can always get the better hand of that.
Yeah, and that makes it a great map. In fact, I would like to see this map tried out in GSL. You know, there's a few maps in there that I think it's about time to get rid of.
Well, I don't like Atlantis Spaceship.
Yeah, I think that, you know, replacing that with this next season could be a great move, and maybe even throw a different one in. But definitely, I have to echo what you said there, man. We've seen just amazing games on this map that really reward a more cognizant player.
Yeah.
You know, the player that's really paying attention to what's going on and reacting to it. All right, so into this game, we do have Leenock getting a little bit quicker speed and getting his Baneling nest up. Now, Baneling victories still can and do occur in ZVZ, but they're not as common as they once were.
Yeah, it's just a requirement. If your opponent has a hatchery, which it's ZVZ, and if he's playing normally, he has the amount of production necessary to just run you over if you skip Banelings. He'll just kill you with pure speedling alone. It doesn't matter how many spine crawlers you try to make in time. It's just good to have a Baneling or two to defend. And also, if your opponent tries to run in and scout into your main base, you can threaten them with Banelings to make it much more difficult to actually get through.
Well, right now we do have Leenock making a lot of Zerglings, and in fact a Spine Crawler as well. Just the Spine Crawler coming up for Hyun so far, and that's actually good. He's sitting in more of a defensive position, and as he sees Lings running out, he's going to be able to make his own Lings and counter that. I mean, with this quick Spine, I like it. He's gotten a few extra drones out a little bit quicker because he chose not to make those extra Lings right away.
Yeah, he's just playing this so defensively at this point, now making 12 Lings. Spine is up, and Leenock is actually heavily committing to this.
Yeah, 5 Banes. So it looks like he wants to see if he can break it, but with 3 Queens, a Spine, 12 Lings on the way, and a couple Banes, no way is he breaking Hyun.
Yeah, no way. No way, man.
All right, here we go. Targeting down Banelings immediately.
And, oh, wow, that was a terrible trade for Leenock.
That was exactly what he did not want to have happen. And
he didn't even kill the Spine.
Yeah, and in fact, right now we have Hyun going back across the map. He is up by only a couple of drones, but he has a lot of Lings, whereas Leenock has basically none right now. He's going to have to just send his Spine Crawler and make a few more.
Yeah, he's basically saying, well, I didn't have to use my Lings that I made to defend, so I might as well use them to put a little bit of pressure on. Don't waste them. Get out there, put some pressure on. He's not going to make any Banelings here. He's forced Leenock to make additional Banelings. While he has a lair finishing up, he's got a Roach Warren on the way. Leenock has a lair on the way as well, but he's skipping the Roach Warren so far, so I'm curious to see what his plan's going to be here.
You Obviously, think we're going to see some Mutas, Wolf?
You know, looking at the gases, he's already taken 4. I think we may, in fact, see Mutas.
Could be a straight rush to Infestor 2, we're going to have to see. Yeah, and it is going to be Mutas. Not too surprised there. But he has to watch out for any Roach timings. We do have an Infestation pick going down instantly for Hyun. So, you know, if you go straight Spire and the other person goes straight Infestation Pit, the Mutas will get there a little bit before your Infestors are ready. So you do have to be a little bit careful, have enough Queens, maybe make a couple Spores, or the damage can get out of control. And if they can spread their Mutas and make you waste Fungals, there can be follow-up attacks that you basically can't stop.
Yeah, and if you have the Infestation Pit going up, it becomes very difficult to defend your 3rd hatchery because you just invested so much into that. Well, he's going to try to make this happen. I really like how he's brought these Banelings here, and he's going to force a cancel for sure.
Oh, man, yeah, he is, and actually kills it. Nice move there by Hyun. And Leenock in a little bit of trouble. Pathogen Glands have started, and the Spire is going to finish quite quickly here. So we should see, it looks like he's going to be able to make about 7 or 8 Mutas to start.
Yeah. You know, I spoke with Unstable during Leenock's matches on that Code S day, And, you know, Unstable doesn't normally live in Korea, but he's staying here for a while to, you know, help his team prepare and things like that. And he told me that he feels like Leonok gets really nervous when Unstable is here because they're really close, and, you know, he feels like Unstable is, not that he feels like he's judging him or something, but he feels a little bit stressed out when he's here.
Management on the team, you know, and Leonok happy with FXO, wants to make them happy, and yeah, there's going to be pressure involved because of that. It does make sense.
Yeah, so I think that, like, that may be why we're seeing a few of these mistakes, like not canceling the hatchery, some of the mistakes we saw at Kodas, for example, that may factor into it a little bit. 3 spores are already on the way, and he's going to have pathogen glands. +1 is done. Everything is lining up really nicely here for Hyun.
That's right. The pathogen glands just finished. He has infestors on the way. But you got to watch out, because if Leonok spreads the mutas correctly, he can keep him in his base for a long time. In fact, we're going to have to see him either increase the queen count a bit, or maybe throw up a Hydralisk den to help deal with these. Otherwise, it's going to be too hard to push out.
And Leonok is getting Baneling speed with his Roach Horn.
Ooh, that's kind of cool.
I mean, that is something we've seen a little bit in ZVZ, but just it's not all too common. It's not always necessary, because usually people kind of skip Banelings through the mid into the late stage.
Well, you have to be so careful because of the fungal growth. I mean, if you catch speeded Banelings with fungal growth, that's a lot of lost income, because those things are not going to connect, all right? Nope. They are going to finish those off oh so easily. It's going to be a top priority. So you kind of have to catch people off guard if they're going Infester and you're going for a heavy Baneling composition.
Yeah, you really do. We do see a Hydralisk Den is coming up here, and, you know, it doesn't work in ZVZ like it does in other matchups where you go Stargate, for example, to try to force Hydras, then have the counter ready. You can't really try to force Hydras in this matchup with Mutas and then try to use Banelings. I mean, that may be something that he's considered, but I just don't think that's the plan here. I think he just wants to use these Banelings to defend his third base more readily. It looks like he actually wants to attack with them, though, at the third base.
He might just target down or try to hit drones. We'll see, but here come the Fungals.
And there's the Fungal, just like you said.
And that is a lot lost for Leonok. Look at these supplies, 150 to 125. And that's a big difference in ZVZ for this part of the game.
Yeah, man.
Hyun is 6 drones up right now, and he's got more army supplies. Yep. So he's leading in every way.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, these Mutalisks can no longer really do anything. They no longer have value. And, I mean, Baneling speed or not, if you get Fungal, man, it reduces the speed to 0.
That's very true. That upgrade doesn't do anything against Fungal.
No, it does not.
But, you know, some things to mention here are that, you know, they are both on 3 bases. And, yeah, the Mutas aren't going to be all that useful, though. You know, Mutas are one of the more strong tech paths you can do right as you get to layer, but his timing was missed. Hyun had the perfect spores, he had enough queens, and now very smartly he's going right into those Hydras as mentioned before. And the Hydras not only are going to be good against these Mutas if they do get fungled, or even if they don't, but the Hydras with fungal growth against someone that has less fungal growth is amazing, because we're going to see probably a tech switch from Leonok into Roaches, and holding those still and outranging, oh god, is that a massacre.
You know, I have a question for your Artosis. You're the observing computer guy, so am I, but you got it today. What is the upgrades for Leonok? I think he has none for his Roaches, right?
He's got one.
Okay, he does have +1.
And he is getting +2.
But he's significantly behind. His opponent is going to have 2-1 before he has 2-0.
Yeah, and 2 upgrades up is huge, especially with Hydras in the mix. So right now we do have from Hyun 12 Hydras, 31 Roaches, and 8 Infestors. From Leonok, simply 9 Roaches and 7 Infestors and 8 Mutas. He does have 22 Roaches on the way, though.
Yeah, and, I mean, they're going to be here in time to try to hold this. Great Fungals from Leonok so far. This is what I'm talking about. If you have map awareness, you can get the right concave, but there may be too many Hydras here, Artosis, with that much extra DPS. It's going to be really hard to hold.
That is a lot of extra damage. A ton of infested Terrans are going down. It's hard to even see who's here, but it looks like Hyun gonna start to push through his Hydras in the back. Still alive. He has just the right number of Roaches so far, tanking that damage so the Hydras can actually deal it.
Yeah, it looks like this is just too much. He's already remaxed. It's a 195 to 137, and he will not hold. Leonok's build was just deflated here. I mean, I feel like he tried to make something work with these Mutas, then he went for the extra Baneling attack, and 2 failures in a row, and Hyun just basically didn't do anything special. He just played very standard, and is going to take a win here.
Yeah, it's just a very strong attack. Leonok not doing anything with the Mutas, not doing anything with the Baneling speed, and, you know, his actual strong, meaty ground army was a bit too late. Yeah. And, I mean, we just have an endless supply of Roaches coming down, so this should be a GG any moment.
Yeah, it absolutely will be. Leonok is desperately trying to hang in here, but this is tough for FXOpen, losing such an important player early on. Yeah. GG.
That is the best way to put it. That is rough. I mean, to lose Lenok right off.
And not only that, but to lose him to a good all-around player in all matchups. I mean, Hyun is not yet a star in any matchup, but he has no weak point, I feel like. I mean, maybe his only weak point is experience, I guess, but many of the players on the FXOpen bench don't have that much experience either. Like I said, it's kind of a bench of B-teamers in a way.
Yeah, it's definitely one way to look at it, man. And Hyun is going to be a hard guy to knock off. Who do you use at this point to kill him? Seriously. Well, who are you actually going to send out?
That's the question, man. And one thing I didn't mention earlier is when you see that FXOpen has chosen Lenok as their starting player, from everyone's perspective outside looking in, it looks like, oh, that's really strange. They use one of their best players. But it may be that in practice, for example, what if ASD is just killing everybody and nobody knows that?
Man. When I was first seeing ASD play, you know, in the Code A and whatnot, I was like, oh my god, this guy's going to be one of the big Terrans. He's actually such a talented guy. So I think you're probably right on that. I think they probably have some big guns that we just haven't seen lately in the leagues.
And we may also have a bunch of sniping strategies. Now, I used to actually be a part of this team, and I work with Unstable specifically on sniping strategies, and he and I were both so good at actually pinpointing who we thought would be the correct player to choose. And even after I left, I talked to them a lot, and we strategized together. And Unstable and Choyo are really smart at picking snipers, so we may see very specific snipe strategies. Obviously, to snipe Hyun, I don't think that's something they had planned. That's going to be pretty difficult to do. He's not a player you can easily snipe. He has no weaknesses.
That's exactly. It's like, well, what do you have a player? You have to go in the other way. Do you have a player that's specifically really good against just like a strong macro Zerg? And who will that be? Do you want a Terran player? Do you want a Protoss player? I don't think, for sure, you don't want another Zerg player right now.
No, not right now, man. Not after that. I mean, again, I feel like Lenok's build was basically just thwarted, but even so, Hyun just played standard. He looked strong in all aspects in that game, and I wouldn't want to play against that with another Zerg. Although, recently in the Team League, people have just been throwing Zergs at Zergs. We may see it.
Well, there's this big sentiment about Zerg being so powerful right now. So but still, I'm thinking of their roster. I'm like, you don't use Lucky yet.
Yeah, Lucky
is so solid.
Lucky's not that good at ZVZ.
Well, yeah, and I think that's because he's like a mini DRG. Lucky tries to play the game in a very macro-oriented, strong style. He's building himself for the future. He might not be a champion this year, but you wait like a year or two, Lucky just keeps on grinding away at the hardest skills that there are to get, the big macro management games. Lucky is going to be such a solid player. I think you save him. You don't use him yet.
Well, who is it going to be, man?
Could it be Gumio?
Gumio's moving back
He's
and
wiggling,
forth,
man.
But it is, in fact, going to be Tier. You know, I wasn't expecting this guy to come out this early. Well, I was told that Tier might be a sniper for Polt, but he's coming out right now.
Interesting.
So, looks like plans have changed.
Yep. Well, they oftentimes do, Wolf. This is a kind of dire situation. He really needs to take out Hyun here. If he loses to Hyun, suddenly you have a team that has Symbol and Polt on it up 2-0. And they're on a heater as well, okay? If your team has been just crushing lately, you all have good morale, you're all playing very well, you're all very confident, that's a hard place to be in.
Absolutely, man.
Against that.
Especially,
it's a great place to be in if you're them.
Yes, especially if you're Hyun, though, and you're in the booth, you have no real weaknesses, you're a good all-around player. And to send a player like Tier out that was a sniper seems a little bit strange. We're going to take a 5-minute break. When we get back, guys, we'll see if Tier can tie things up here at the GSTL.
And I still be saved like a piggy bank on it and build me all that I couldn't, wouldn't, and shouldn't have been. I owe to the wooden